Hello everyone, welcome back to RCH Builders. So today what we're going to be working on in here is starting to do what they call finish the sheetrock, or mudding the sheetrock that we've hung, and touching up some spots in the old on the old sheetrock that is adjoining and adjacent to the sheetrock that we're done. So basically what I mean is, like, right here there used to be a towel holder, basically, I would assume, based off of the way the holes are and everything. I'm going to be patching over those holes that are there, of course, patching the ceiling here, and we'll have to be working on, like, along the edges here where the original was cut and pulled off and all that. But anyways, try and get this where you can see a little bit more versus less for starters. So let me see if I can get it where you can see it. One of the things when doing patching of sheetrock is, what I see a lot of people do is they don't realize the fact that the whole idea of sheetrock patching, of course, is to make it look like there's no issues. So what I see a lot of times, you see this where it's bumped out and you've got this flare here. I've seen a lot of times they just add more and more mud to try to feather that out. Much better, take the end of the knife and create a divot. And then there's a hole that you can fill. That'll make this be a lot smoother and make this disappear when you're done later. It's like, a lot of people, in my opinion, they use way too much mud. I guess they figure they can sand it out, which you can, but I've never seen someone take as much time sanding it as they should if they do go that route. So basically what I mean by that is, because they have put 3 times as much mud on there as they should have, when they go to sand it, they get tired, they feel it, oh, it feels smooth, but then there's still a hump in the wall right there, that if you shine a light on it in a certain direction, you definitely can see. So basically, create a divot, use just enough mud to make it smooth. You're supposed to be trying to smooth it out, not build it up and feather it out so much. In certain cases, feathering it out is all you can do. But if there's a way to avoid that, you should. So the next thing I'm going to work on is the corner here. Well, actually, I'll probably do the corner next. With the corner here, this is the old sheetrock here, this is the new. You'll notice that I've left this gap here. I used to not do that, and then I seen that a guy who would do sheetrock mudding, he always complained about not having this gap, and explained why. The reason being is, if you bring these corners completely together and then you try and put the corner bead on, when you put the corner bead on, it has a tendency, because this is completely solid, to create a bump in the very in the very edge of the corner where it can't set flat against it. So leaving this gap allows you to push the corner bead flatter with both sides of the wall. It allows that void in there for it to push in good. So I'm going to basically do the same thing where these screws are, make sure that it's flat. I always bring my impact in with me when I'm doing this, so if a screw just so happens to be sticking out to where I can't knock it good, I can tighten it in. I think any sheetrock mudder should carry a drill with them for that purpose, in my opinion. But anyways, you're going to put just enough mud on both sides. You don't need a whole lot. And then you'll push the corner bead in, and you're essentially going to scrape all of the mud out of it. There should be just enough to hold the paper in place. Although if you try and leave a huge amount in it, one, it's going to bubble out the material. Two, it's going to create an air pockets inside. Another thing you can do a lot of times with the older stuff that's already here, because when you cut it, the paint has a tendency to make this edge very jagged, because it pulls the paper with it, where the paint kind of adhered in towards the paper from the sheetrock. So before you put mud on it, and I'll do the same thing when I patch this up here, I'll cut the edge. You just add an angle, slight angle. You're essentially deburring it. That's the corner bead on. So for the most part, you're going to use a good bit of mud getting ready. But by the time you're done scraping it off, you're going to have almost all of that mud back in your pan when doing this tape coat. So the tape coat doesn't really use that much mud per se. The second coat, the bed coat, is the one who always uses the most. So for this up here, essentially doing the regular joints are going to be kind of the same as this. You're just going to put a little bit of mud across, then you're going to put the tape on and you're going to scrape it off, pretty much. Scrape it all out. I am, again, because this is the old cut, I'm going to trim it around just a little bit to get rid of the burrs on the original sheetrock that's there. But otherwise, I'm probably going to go ahead and put it on hyperlapse here, because from here on it's essentially the same thing over and over as I go ahead and work my way through here. I'm going to mud this, work my way back through. I will probably try and do all of the corners and then come back and do these seams after I've done that all the way through. The reason why is because it'll give the corners a little bit of time to dry before I run tape and mud across here, because it will overlap the corner there and here slightly. So it gives it a little bit of time to dry there. But like I say, I'm going to go ahead and kind of just start rolling with it. Where the screw holes are, it's going to basically be mudded just like this. Just enough mud to cover it. Maybe ever so slightly of a bump that gets sanded out later. All right, so finally got this all taped up. Took a whole lot longer than I was thinking it would. Didn't really show this area over here. It's just no room for me to move around as much as I need to do the taping and put the camera in there. But this down here is done. This took a lot long. Like I said, it took a lot longer than I was expecting. There's just, even though it's a small area, there is a lot of corners, angles, cuts, just everywhere. A lot of sheetrock for a small area. But anyways, this down here is done. Next thing I'm going to do is go upstairs, do the tape coat up there, and then at that point, where we started will probably be dry enough to where I can do the bed coat on it. So basically I'll move straight from taping into bedding. And the bed coat is going to be thick. So the tape coat, because it's very thin, it doesn't take long to dry. Too long to dry. I mean, this right here looks like it's dry already to me. I could touch it and tell for sure, but it seems like it's dry. This is where we started. But when you do the bed coat, it's a lot thicker. That one usually will take a full day, if not a little bit more, to dry, depending on the humidity and all that. So, but anyways, this down here is taped off and ready. All right, so I went ahead and did the upstairs off camera, just trying to knock it out, get it done real quick. And just, there's not a lot of room to set stuff up and have to keep moving the camera around. And it's the same thing that I did down here, just taping up stuff. So probably going to do that with the bed coat and the skim coat as well when I'm up there. Just like I say, it's just that much more to have to video, try and do setup, and then it's not really any different than down here. Down here is much more, there's much more to it. There's more corners, there's more angles. Up there, it's really flat, just square room, so super easy. Anyways, gonna get ready to do the bed coat. So the bed coat is gonna be much thicker, and it's gonna have to probably be done in kind of stages because of all the corners. So typically, but we'll see. But like a lot of times, like I can bed this corner, but because this corner is really wet, I may not be able to do these, or vice versa, when I do them. And kind of the same thing with these, so it's like kind of like every other scene. But either way, the idea of the bed coat is it's going to be a much thicker, it's going to be more feathering out from this corner out smoothly, so to make it angled in where it looks nice and straight. There's a lot more mud to it. The final coat, which is called the skim coat, some places you may need it, some places you may not, depending on how well you did the bed coat. Sometimes you can get by with just the bed coat. But anyways, gonna get started with it, doing what I can, and then move on from there. Alright, so I've gone ahead and gotten it all taken care of. I finished the bed coat. It's real difficult videoing this in here with how small it is. Finished the bed coat. Did not end up needing to do a skim coat. I got the bed coat nice and good. If you're careful with it and you make it nice and smooth and careful, you should be good without having to do a skim coat. A skim coat just helps cover any heavy ridges. Usually, in my experience, the people, when you need a skim coat, it means you're putting the bed coat on either way too heavy, or another reason that you would probably need a skim coat would be because also it might be that you have to have a really steady hand. So if you're really good with artistry, drawing, painting, stuff like that, you could probably go ahead and get by with doing just the bed coat and having everything nice and smooth with the bed coat. If you don't have a real steady hand, you will probably definitely need to do a skim coat as well, because the skim coat just helps smooth out any rough edges that there are. But for the most part, most of the edges, if the edges are slightly rough, you can sand it out and get rid of that, as opposed to having to add more mud. It just depends on how if it's slightly rough, like if it's just a slight, you can barely feel it, you're going to be able to sand that out. So the sheetrock's done. Probably try and do a better video as far as showing sheetrock some other time, when there's both more room and more lighting. At least that's where this project is at. After the windows are in, I'll probably go ahead and hopefully show where you can see a little better kind of the overall thing, both downstairs and upstairs, as far as what exactly it looks like. You'll be able to see it better, of course. Anyways, as far as this video goes, I'm going to just put all of the sheetrock, mudding and all that into one video instead of splitting it up, even though it was multiple days, a few hours here, a few hours there, stuff like that. I'm just going to put it all together. Hope you've enjoyed watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you the next time.